Hello, hello. Okay, sorry for the delay. So what happened is basically I actually got my Pixiv permanently suspended, so I was trying to fix it. I don't think I can. I think it's just gone. I think I just gotta make a new one, then copy all my art from my old Pixiv to my new one. Luckily I still have access to my drafts and stuff, so I still have like a timeline of all my stuff. But it's a pain. And the fact that I can't appeal it like at all is kind of crazy. But I also did finish my the next part of my Hunter video. So that should be uploaded next week. I just gotta put the descriptions and stuff. I won't be putting up subtitles and Hunter videos and just stuff based on my articles in general because um you can just read the article if if you need to. I just don't see the videos being that so different from the articles themselves that to justify putting subtitles in the video when I already have like the article written out. Let me just make sure I actually post this everywhere. And then So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do like the ones that Commander said because honestly, this is taking pretty long, and I can't really justify doing it unless I spend like hours a day going through each of the art pieces. Yeah, sorry, this is from way earlier. Um, so I think I'm just gonna like focus more on the articles and stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing like I'm probably just gonna just do the art from the main sets because it's just such a time sink to do the art from like from all the Commander sets and stuff. Especially since a lot of the art might be repeating from others, like sometimes like it's just like they'll pull in art from like other planes and stuff. Like there'll be reprints. So I just think that would just take way too long to sit there and go through every single every single like commander card and stuff. But I don't know if this was like doing super well and was getting like a bunch of views. I could maybe justify it to myself, but I just don't think it's justifiable to be sitting this long and just like reviewing art for like 10 plus hours. Well, I'm trying to think about what I want to do. I really should plan these better so I don't you don't have to watch me typing in stuff for like 5 minutes. But also got French fries. I'm very hungry, so if you hear me eat, I'm sorry. That's a reference from art I was drawing earlier, which you can actually just see in the YouTube post. To be honest, wonder why that exists. Okay, test my audio. Hello, hello. I keep talking. Test my audio. Man, this thing is really lagging. Like, YouTube is really lagging behind it. Hello? Hello. Are you talking? Just okay. Maybe I'll turn my audio up higher. I don't know. But if you hear something in the background, my computer's going crazy. So. Sorry about that. So let's go through the cards for today. I don't know why this is probably not the most optimal way to do this. I should probably just open the cards one by one, which I think I usually do, actually. I don't know how I'm doing it like this. Maybe I'm also misremembering how I do it. Okay. So here we have Atmospheric Greenhouse. I gotta turn off my night shift. Hold on, I'm just looking at something. Okay, Atmospheric Greenhouse. Artifact Spacecraft. When this spacecraft enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Station 8. So, flavor-wise, we know. So there's the bug people, the Eomedians within the Sotheran system of the Edge, and they're on a planet called I want to say it's Evendo at the moment. So the Eomedians are actually spread out across the universe. They basically like get spread across by certain pod ships, and these pod ships land on certain planets. Land on various planets, and then once the planet becomes suitable for inhabitation, the pods start activating, start making bug people who then terraform the planet. So here we see like a bit of the Eumenian terraformation like in process. Evendo is mostly ice. It's frozen around except for the equator because the only reason why is because around the equator the Eumenians have been terraforming it and melting it. So here, like you see on the edges, that's ice. That's mostly ice, and then here you have like the more lush equator. And here we see that represented in the card art, them just terraforming. And that's probably why it's a greenhouse. It's probably like, the idea is either it stores stuff and then puts it down, or it's either just sucking this up to store it for terraformation reasons. When this spacecraft enters, put a +1/+1 on counter on each creature you control. So I think the idea is that it's just helping things grow because it's a greenhouse, so it puts +1/+1 counters on thing, and it has flying because it's a ship, and trample because I don't really know. It's big and it's green. It's green aligned. The Eumenians are a very interesting take on the green alignment because a lot of people have this idea that green is like abhors any form of technology, and that you can't really be a green character unless you're just like butt ass naked in the woods using nothing but like Stone Age technology. But green is more about like accepting the world for as it is, and not trying to forcefully change it. So what that can actually mean accepting like certain like forms of technology. Like for example, a green character might see like a beaver build a dam, and like most people aren't gonna say a beaver building a dam is like an unnatural process, besides it being like an artificial construct. And then a green character could have that same approach towards like other sentient species like humans and stuff. They might go, well, humans are that we create. That's what we do. That's our place in the ecosystem, and we can overstep that. We have to respect that. Um, and green is like often simplifies the nature color, which in a way, that's kind of like an oversimplification. What green is about growth through acceptance. It's about accepting the world for as it is and not trying to force like artificial changes on it. And that can mean if there's certain artificial things that exist in the world already or have existed for a long time, that can mean accepting their place in the world, not trying to change them. So, for example, a good example would be New Capenna. New Capenna is like all city because everywhere outside the city is just like just a dead wasteland. And you can have still have a green character in that setting because you have a green character that goes, yes, a city's artificial, but that's just the way life is, and we shouldn't try to forcibly change that. You gotta accept that this is the way things are now. We live in this city. Um, so you could accept certain artificial processes of the world as being a part of it, or see it, or it depends on how you define nature. People might define nature differently. Even characters that are multiple like green aligned characters, despite being under the same alignment, they might have different definitions of what is natural and what is not natural. Um, so yeah. So this is clearly like to us it seems like an artificial process, but it's important to point out that from the Eumedians perspective, they kind of just get like scattered around the universe and they're just kind of following like their genetic programming. So to them, this is like a natural process, and it's really important to understand this for green, especially like if that's saying like this with like sci-fi settings, like because inevitably someone's gonna be like, why this doesn't feel green? Why is there like a spaceship? And like green can accept like certain spaceships or like forms of technology, and it depends on like how you define what is natural. Like maybe humans just have a drive to explore space. You might see that as like a natural something that's kind of like a natural drive to explore space, and thus building ships is okay. But of course, depends on the green character. There are. I'm not saying like a green character cannot be like a sort of like primal paleo diet. We should all go back to just like be living in caves. But like saying that that's what green is, and green is just about natural nature, and green cannot ever in like any form of technology, such an oversimplification, and like misconstruing of what green is. At least a lot of like weird can relate to like a lot of weird perceptions about like how green is functioning in Magic. Like I'm talking about this like as from a flavor perspective, but there are green cards that care like a bit about technology or I mean artifacts and make artifacts. And that's twofold because one, like I said earlier, green can care about technology. It depends like this like a bit on the specifics, but green can like technology or see it as like a natural part of certain things. And two, not all artifacts are machines. Some artifacts are just like inanimate objects. Like if you look at like a food token, food token can be artificial food, but it could just be like an apple or something. Like not all food is like an artificial food within Magic the Gathering. And you can look at, for example, treasures. Like yes, treasures are sometimes like gold coins, but we've also seen treasures that are just like the implication that it's just like coming from ore or something, like naturally occurring things that are valuable. I think people kind of miss that where they go like, why would green care about treasures? Green doesn't care about artifacts, and it's like, well, not all treasures are artificial. Like there are artifacts in the fact that they're inanimate objects, but not all green, not all like artifacts are necessarily representing artificial. And even if they did, not all artificial things are necessarily things that green would never touch ever. And it also depends like on the plane. Like obviously like on Kaladesh slash Avishkar, like green's gonna care about artifacts more because of how technology is dominant in the plane. Like also like Capenna doesn't have an artifact theme, but like on Capenna, obviously everyone's stuck in a city, so green's forced to adapt, and the philosophy is gonna be changed by that setting. Bioengineered future. So once again, interesting example of like green here, because like bioengineered feels like usually be like a blue thing or like maybe a simic thing, like blue green. So interesting take on it in like a green thing where it's like seen as like almost like a natural evolution from their perspective. Bioengineered future. One generic, two green. When this enchantment enters, create a lander token. Each creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter for each land that entered the battle under your control this turn. So it's rewarding you for playing lands. So first of all, creates a lander token. So it's the idea of terraforming. Like this is all ice. The idea is you're terraforming this. It's like a more habitable. I forgot to talk about the art. I don't know if I want. Do I just stop talking about the art and just go over the flavor? I don't know. So the art here is done by Serge Glishikov, and it's pretty simple. It's mostly just like green. Notice like even though we have like a bunch of detailing here, like with the brush to show like all the thing that's growing and being like trimmed or enhanced, the ship sits in this basically spotlight area, whereas like there's not like a whole lot of detail. Like it's mostly blue in the background. Obviously green, so you know it's a green card, etc., etc. And like always, E-minis have like this very organic look to their ships. And you might ask like what do I mean by organic? And usually what people mean when they say organic shapes in art is they usually mean like smooth, irregular, not like hard edges. Like when someone says inorganic, like for example, a perfect square is not something you see like in nature, or like a perfect rectangle. It's something you might see like in a building because the building's artificially made, but you don't really see that in nature. And nature's more likely to have like these rounded shapes, like maybe smooth by weathering or like water, or you know, certain plants grow and they have rounded leaves. But like you're not just a plant isn't just gonna grow usually just to grow like a perfectly square leaf. So that's what people mean by um organic looking stuff in art. Is usually they mean rounded, irregular, stuff like that. Now this is definitely like symmetrical, obviously, but it's still like rounded and even then there's like a plain symmetrical stuff in nature, right? You have like butterflies and stuff, they're usually symmetrical. So anyway, um so the idea here is that the lander token, and then if you terraform, you get a land. So lander token helps you look for a land. And each creature you control gets an initial +1/+1 counter on it for each land that enters the battlefield you control on your turn. So the idea is that the more lands you terraform or claim, etc., the more powerful and more like um reward your creatures get. Because I guess that you have more resources to bioengineer them. I assume obviously it just does each turn because it's a pain. It would be a pain in the ass to keep track of it ramping indefinitely. Um, with this kind of mechanic, I guess you could do it for each land you have, but I guess they wanted to balance it because it is 3 mana. So I mean, the art once again, the focus is less on the people here. We don't really get a good look at any of their faces because they're all facing towards us, and the focus here is that's like mostly what's happening like up here. Like yeah, we have the crowd, but it feels like it's mostly what's happening up here, where it's like all these ships flying, and then getting ready to bioengineer something. And we have this ice, which is in contrast to like the encroaching plants and people. Biosynthetic burst. One generic, one green. But a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains reach and indestructible until the end of the turn. Untap it. Maybe in your next evolution. Eumedian insult. I actually like that insult. Makes a lot of sense for the Eumedians. It's all about evolving quickly. I mean, bio means like usually has to do with like life, like biology, like study of life. Bio like organic. So bio implies like some sort of organic, and then synthetic is like kind of a bit artificial, and burst. So it's a artificial biological burst of some kind. And we know the EU meeting to a bunch of like weird biological like editing and stuff going on. So I assume this. I mean, I don't know if that's like something that they can all do. This is probably just like a like whatever this person's pack doing. Like clearly, whatever they're doing is somehow related to this pack, and whatever. Um, Very interesting choice to make them. We've seen E-Midians not be green. They're usually green, but we've seen like cases where they're like more red or pink. So interesting choice to make it pink. I assume it's for contrast because there's green fucking everywhere in this picture already, with exceptions like the crater. Like you have a green floor, green here, green here. So I assume it's just so they wouldn't blend in as much with the background. Um, and I don't know what the fuck that is. That's a weird creature. Um, I'm just thinking about what I want to say. I mean, obviously we see like the direction of explosions coming out with the dirt and stuff. So this creature isn't really close enough for us to see like the direction of the explosion. So it's kind of conveyed with us with the crater and all this stuff being thrown up. Um, we do see like the Eumedian staffs. They seem to like certain like staffs or whatever. They seem to love their staff technology. Um, and like this power pack. So clearly this is like related to whatever this is because it shares the color and it's like radiating outward. Um, but a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains reach, trample, and indestructible until end of turn. Untap it. So I guess the idea is that it's just making creature more powerful, and like this you can see this as sort of being like a shield, I suppose, too. So the indestructibility could be a shield, and +1/+1, the trample because it gets more powerful. and untap it because it gets energized because it's a bio burst of some kind. Um, Very interesting that once again we see like art depicting like the horizon like very at like an angle because we can infer from this thing from this person here that the horizon looks a lot like this instead of this. I don't think I think it's just they could be on some sort of slope, but I think the idea is to convey like a sense of like action and dynamicism. So yeah, and also they also like have like vents. I don't see medians on their like maybe that's what maybe that's what the stuff is on their ships, like the weird like they're not really grates, but like these could be like they often have like these little like I wouldn't say the grates, but like striations, like little like vents or something. These could be vents, which would probably make sense. Um, of some kind. Because they seem to have vents on like their armor. It's interesting how the armor looks like less organic on them, like in their ships, which I suppose makes sense because their ships I think are probably based on like their seed ships or whatever helps them spread around the galaxy. Blooming Stinger. This is a very pretty creature design. Alexander Honore. Blooming Stinger. One generic, one green. I do like how it was like four fangs. This just kind of feels like overkill in some areas. Um, Death Touch. When this creature enters, another creature you control gains Death Touch until the end of the turn. Death never smelled so sweet. So they definitely want to emphasize the Death Touch because they not only give it a big stinger, but also like has poison dripping from it. Interesting that they went with purple for the stinger. Is that a Black Lotus like reference back there? It looks like Black Lotus. Like, hold on. See, it looks kind of like, maybe not. I mean, it has like little things, but is this like Alien Black Lotus? I don't really know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm mad. It feels like it could be a Black Lotus reference of some sort, some Black Lotus iteration. Um, so obviously, ton of green. Once again, we're having like because if you look at the art, you see a bunch of detail over to the left and the right, and then as you get closer to like whatever the subject of the image actually is, it becomes less detailed, just so like there's more to focus on with the creature, and it doesn't get as confused by the environment. Interesting that he chose purple for the poison because we know Death Touch. Black green gets Death Touch sometimes as because it cares about creatures and it's like representative of natural poisons. But black also gets it a lot, so and we know black's associated with purple. Although lately, I think just in modern pop culture lately, like poison has been strongly associated with purple, just generally. So it's probably that. Um, and I do like how they incorporate like it could have just made this green, but I do like how it has bright colors, which makes sense because if you know like a little bit about how creatures function in the real world, some creatures have very bright colors. It's like a warning sign. Like if you looked at them, you might think it's counterintuitive to have really bright colors because generally in nature you want to hide and stuff and camouflage. But some creatures are really poisonous and they have really bright colors that act as a warning sign. So if you eat them and get sick or you die or whatever, you or whatever or something else will know. Okay, avoid the big, the bright blue frog. It's very striking. Do not touch that frog. Like for example, um, I do love the. It is a plant scorpion. I do like the mix of plants here. I do like how the pinchers are like Venus flytraps, and this I feel like this could looks like it could open up like if the flower like close around it, and the stinger would be poking out, but it can open up to like look scary. Especially since we know some animals like they try to make themselves look bigger. So I could see a similar logic here, where like maybe this plant thing opens up to make it look bigger, but that's just me like rambling. It's also covered in thorns. Like this thing is just very spiky. This thing is just screaming like design wise, do not touch me, right? Because it's death touch. You should not want to swing into me. You should not want to block me. I'm covered in spikes and spiky bits. I have a stinger. I have death touch, etc., etc. Um, it's really weird that it gives another creature death touch at a turn. I mean, it has death touch that makes sense. It's a very interesting card design as far as giving death touch to other creatures like this in green. Um, but I don't know if that's like the idea is that the poison is rubbing off on them, or you're simply just using the poison. You're probably just using the poison, I guess. Is that lands, you harvest a bit of the poison, it's still around, put it in a vial, so then give it to one of your guys and say, yeah, kill that man. That I also like the implication that it smells sweet. Um, I don't know if the idea is that's maybe how it attracts prey too. Probably like the poison is supposed as a self defense, but also can like attract prey to it. Could be the idea. Root Guard Elite, X generic, 1 green. So the Eumedians have kind of like a wide variety of faces. These are definitely like less insectoid. And we do know that part of it just because, just generally, a lot of the alien species within the Edge are more biodiverse than humans. Humans are actually like least diverse in appearance, less diverse in appearance on the Edge than a lot of other creatures. So that's part of it. Also, the Eumedians are like bioengineered for various purposes, which can change like their form and appearance quite a lot depending on not because first of all they exist outside the Edge, so I'm sure Eumedians from other parts of the Edge will look very different. I think it's implied that, like, for example, I think it's Mantis. Is that who, in the story? She looks noticeably different from Eumedians within the Sotheran system because of their environment and the fact they like basically gene edit to fit the environment. That being said, I should clarify that despite this, the Eumedians are not like a hive mind or something where like they have no free will. If you read the story and stuff, it's very very clear that the Eumedians are like individual people with like their own desires, and they can actually do things that's like they can also just do things like outside of what they're programmed to do per se. Like that one character we see in the side story wants to become like an artist. Like so it's not like they're a hive mind, and they do have free will. Um, but it's kind of interesting because they could have easily just gone with the hive mind idea, but I think but they probably didn't for one. It probably was like they wanted something more unique, but also because there's already slivers implied to exist in this universe, and if they need a hive mind, they'll just put slivers in. And slivers also for the niche of like a a rapidly evolving like hive mind that like so I guess they didn't want to just make them just like basically like slivers in like terms of mechanics and presentation. Like, oh, rapidly evolving hive mind that changes based on the environment. Where have we seen that before? And it's like, yeah, Tyranids from like 40k and all kinds of media, but even within Magic the Gathering, it's like they've already touched on that. So they're doing something a bit interesting where it's like, oh yeah, bioengineered colony, but they're not all hive minds, and they may have different ideas of what to do. Creature Insect Knight. This creature enters with the X+1/+1 counters on it. When this creature leaves the battlefield, put its counters on target creature you control. Warp X green. I think I forgot to post this in the Discord. Well, Discord's taking forever to load. So once again, we have the warp mechanic. The warp mechanic, I feel like it's not necessarily the clearest flavor wise. If you're like a player who doesn't read the story, obviously if you read the story, you know that warp represents their weft travel, though faster than light travel, and it makes sense. Like so, it makes sense on like for example the angels who can move like at the speed of light. Makes sense for the Drix because they can weft walk like naturally without any sort of ship. Um, and there's some cards where it's like you can intuit that the idea is that even though the creature itself cannot warp automatically, they're on a ship or they're on a ship or have a heavily association or attachment to a ship that can. But you get cards like this where yes, they're coming down from a ship, so I assume the idea is that there's a ship somewhere nearby that's warping in, dropping them off, and like picking them up and then warping away. As I assume the intention, but I guess in certain ways I feel like that could be clearer. Although I'm not sure if I would say this is a criticism. It's just me thinking about it because like at the end of the day, the mechanics need to play well, and it'd be weird. Like yes, it'd be more flavorful considering how warp works. It'd be more flavorful for that for the most part that warp was on ships, and then like Drix and then angels and maybe some other creatures. But then like would that be as fun to play? Probably not. So they probably put warp on these creatures, and the idea is just that they have access to a ship that can warp or faster than light travel. Also, Discord, are you okay? There's a block. Anyway, so this person's obviously the main focus. Although Broodguard Elite seems like it could also refer to like multiple, but it seems like this person's the main focus. And then we have like these in the background dropping. And I guess the idea is that it drops down, it has +1/+1 counters, and then when it leaves or dies, it empowers something else. Like it's just really that adamant about fighting. Um, so I mean, not a lot to say about the environment. I mean, green, it's green creature. There's like purple for contrast. Um, a bit of yellow. I don't really know what this yellow is supposed to be. It's not quite fire. I don't know if it's like plasma or like light or something. But some sort of weird energy thing. And the other ones will also have it. It looks like. And these are clearly dropping down because like they're blue, but it's clearly like some sort of light because we know this is mostly green, right? And the bottoms of these people are green. So I guess this would imply it's the light making them look like really blue like that. It's not purely stylization, although probably is a bit of stylization going on there. And it seems like there's a bit of snow or something on the branches, which would make sense. Like I think it's just a chunk of ice right here, because we know Evendo is mostly ice at the moment. So these people are dropping in to do something, and then probably dip. Um, have we had an Intech night before as far as creature cards go? Yeah, I think it's the first insect night we ever had. Interesting. I'm surprised we haven't gotten one because I feel like insects and knights. I don't know. Something about them just feels like like it makes sense to put them together because you have the exoskeleton and the armor. Um, Close encounter, one generic, one green. So definitely feels like a more buggy Emedian, although maybe not quite buggy, but still kind of more buggy than the last Emedian we saw. Instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, choose a creature you control or warped creature a card you own in exile. Close encounter deals damage equal to the power of the chosen creature or card to a target creature. Many mistake Terra symbiotic philosophy as pacifism. They are rarely wrong twice. I think this is like the not the first time we've seen like the idea that like of a green card like having some sort of variation of green philosophy, and then explain that green isn't necessarily peaceful. Um, I think people make that mistake too, where like they'll see green as like an inherently peaceful and pacifist color, even though green's about accepting the world for as it is, which means accepting, for example, shit gets killed and dies in nature like all the time. So people like just read of green as like, oh, green's all natural. Green's like about um peaceful and like big gentle giants. It's like nature's kind of horrifying sometimes. And sometimes shit gets got. So like green ain't always necessarily against war or whatever. I'm trying to find there's like an Innistrad card, I think. Color G. I fucked that up. Da, 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 da. Hold on. Beware of simply gentle souls. Is it Lumball pacifist? Yeah. True peace can't be achieved until everyone is dead. That's the wrong one. The Fury of the Wild. Chat, there's like a card that's like very specific about it where it's just like nature is not peaceful, basically. Um oh yeah, here we go. Weaver of Blossoms. Live in harmony with nature. Does not always mean living in peace. So like I think it's a very good idea of explaining like some of the nuances of green philosophy, where green is not always like hippie in the woods. Like make peace not war, man. Like nature is like has predators, things die all the time, etc., etc. So I think it's like this feels like it's in a similar vein to that, where it's just like just because we're about living, have some idea of like living within nature or in tune with it in some way, does not mean we are like peaceful. Um, this seems like some sort of monolith because this was like some sort of isle by a metal, although not as bulky as some of the other monoliths we've seen. And then they have like the purple black color palette. There's not a whole lot going in the background. And this person's just socking this person. There is like a blur effect, which you will see in real life to an extent. Like if something is moving just really fast, it just looks like a blur because obviously your eyes can't keep up. Um, Not a whole lot going in the background, just kind of like a lighter turquoise-ish color. Um, the whole ton to say about the spell. It's just a fight spell. And you can use it on warp creature cards. So the idea is that I guess it warps in and punches somebody, but I think it's mostly there for mechanics to separate it from like Rabid Bite and stuff or whatever. I think Rabid Bite's actually not a fight spell. It's like a well, okay, this is also a bite spell actually. You're not fighting it, you're just dealing damage. So I think the warp thing is mainly just there to separate it from like Rabid Bite and to play with cards in the set. I do like how we can see this person's face if they get hit so far back when you see their face. This person's just suck. I also like how big this thing's like fists are. They're just really big compared to like its body. Like it's just meant to punch. Oh yeah. So if you don't know, this card was printed with a mistake. So when it first came out, like the spoiler and stuff said like target creature and it didn't have the U. Like, see, look here. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until the end of turn. It deals damage to its power to target creature and opponent controls. So if you don't understand, that's actually really, really good. Saying the difference between you and not having you in a card like this is just mad, because what you can do with cards that don't say you is you can target your opponent's creature and then have them fight each other and then kill like 2 creatures with like 1 stone, for example. But if it's only your creatures, you're putting your creatures at risk because then you fight and then your creature might die. And usually making creatures fight each other, usually like making any creature be able to fight each other, usually like 5 mana, like 4 to 5 mana. It's not usually like 3 mana thing. It's like kind of expensive. Like oh, also this one doesn't even. I guess it doesn't make them fight, but it's still the difference between you and not having you is still pretty big. Once again, we have like the Eomidian Cav conflict. If you don't know the Cav's planet, Caveron that is slowly crumbling away and dying, and then some of them are looking to take the Eomidian's planet, and the way they see is that the Eomidians, yes, they're terraforming it, but the Cav are the only species that in the set that are native to Sothera. So from the beginning, so from their perspective, the Eomidians are just kind of like not necessarily invading, but they're kind of like an invasive species coming into their system. So it's like oh, we're justified in fighting these guys because they don't, they're not like us. They don't really belong. Like, they're not like naturally occurring here. They just flew in one day. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until end of turn. It deals it deals damage equal to target creature you control. Gets +1/+0. So that's just such a wild typo though in this day and age for Magic the Gathering. Like that's such like a big typo. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. I guess also in this case, even though it's like a bite effect, if you could target your opponent's creatures, you wouldn't need any creatures on the board. Which, green usually wants you to have creatures on the board, and it's just kind of like a weird mechanical, like some of green's like mechanical like weaknesses that's put there on purpose to keep it balanced. I know people are probably gonna talk about how OP green is in certain like formats, but even then, Wizards does try to make like give colors certain inbuilt weaknesses. And for green, it's usually that it has to rely on creatures to get stuff done. So, like for example, green gets a little card draw, but it can only do that with creatures. While blue can card draw with like anything. Green can fight and remove things to an extent, but it usually has to like fight with creatures. So being able to do that in green without having to use your own creatures to do anything is, I guess, I assume from their perspective, it's some sort of color pie break. We will not yield. The Eomidians relinquish our Caveron tomorrow. So yeah, so Caveron tomorrow is like a new one, so it makes sense. So Caveron that is their planet. Caveron that was is the part of the planet that's not crumbling because they're barely holding together, but it's slowly like still gonna fall apart one day. And I guess Caveron tomorrow is like whatever they think the next place for Cavs are is gonna live. Official Cav diplomatic statement. I got out and saying that it seems like not all the Cavs seem to agree with how like just trying to kick the Eomidians, trying to take the Eomidian planet, Evendo, because some of them, like I think it's one of the short stories, they made it very clear that at least one of the characters like it doesn't agree with that sentiment. But it seems here that like this is like an official Cav diplomatic statement, so it seems like maybe the Cav state or whatever, or a majority of people might be okay with that, of trying to take Evendo from the Eomidians, especially since in one of the short stories we got like wind of like a potential large scale attack happening um from the cab to the Eomidians. And I think the cab are also like a protected species under the pinnacle, like so which might imply they're close to being endangered or could be endangered. So there's that too. So it becomes like I guess an interesting like political thing. As opposed to just like random warrior race wants to take shit. It's like we are dying. We want your stuff. From our perspective, you don't really belong here, and also we're like basically an endangered species potentially. So this art, I do love this design so much. I love how like it's like an insect. It kind of reminds me of like a bit like Common Rider, but I do like how it's like an insect shell. It like also mimics armor. I do like the armor. The armor kind of also mimics their insect shell. Like this massive like pack. Um, I like the blaster and stuff, and like this. There's actually a lot of red in this art for a green card, but clearly this person's like green, and they're fighting a green blast at this cab. This cab is massive. Um, just coming at them, and once again, I think we have like a bit of like a slanted like horizon of some sort because you can see here based on like these things in this, which I think is just supposed to make it look more action packed. Um, for some reason, this gives me like Astra Militarum vibes like a Militarum soldier. I think specifically what's it called? Like the modified ones that like they're not Space Marines because Space Marines are a different faction, but they're like not they have like the pack. They usually have like the packs and stuff. Hold on. Tarum. No. There's I think the Catachan, not the Catachan. The Cadia Super Soldiers 40k. Whoops, not 40k. I I don't know what the name's blanking on me. The Scions, is that what they are? The Tempesta Scions? Yeah, like they look. I don't know the look of that E-mini gives me like the vibe of like a Tempesta Scion. In some way, so like the big power pack. That's like strapped to a weapon. Fighting something that's like way big, like an orc or something. Like if you replace this like with like this with this with like a Tempesta Scion, and this is like an orc. I don't know. Just it'd feel right. It would make sense. As far as the art goes, like this is very red. The cav are red, so this might imply this is like on a cav ship or something. Um, or maybe like the idea is like a metaphor represents like the encroachment of the cav coming towards the Evendo and the Eomidians. I don't know, but pretty cool art either way. Oh yeah, and of course, like the art's supposed to be ironic because it's diplomatic relations, which theoretically supposed to be peaceful, but they're fighting. Um, it was kind of like a joke a little bit. Drix Fate Maker. So Edge Rover, this rover actually looks like it's on cab. I don't know if it's made if it has anything to do with the Emidians. I could see it, but also it doesn't look like quite the same as the Emidian stuff. Um, and this may or may not be cab. I don't know. I'm assuming it's cab because every time I see a broken planet with rocks flying everywhere and lava, it looks kind of like cab. But I'm not 100% sure. It could be like one of the moons or something. And here we have like drop. These actually look like kind of like the because they're kind of blue. They kind of remind me of the tokens they use for the Ilvoy. Maybe I'm not 100% sure. This could be like cav drop ships. I don't really know. Cav landers anyway. Um, artifact creature, robot scout, reach. When this creature dies, each player creates a land or token, charting the edge one scan at a time. So I guess it's charting the edge, and then if it dies, everyone gets a bit of the information about what it's charted. Um, Not like so. Here we have the art. There's a lot of fire and health. Like, it's very dangerous, and I guess since we like, I guess the story's trying to convey that the robot probably will die because you want to kill it. So it's in a precarious position where it might die at any time, and if it does die, you get something out of it. If it doesn't, just keep scanning or whatever. Um, yeah. So green it has a nice green and orange, which feels very striking. Although orange kind of blends in a little bit with like, some of the fire and lava. I'm surprised they didn't make it all green or something, but it's still pretty good. Um, it's very weird because it was like this looks kind of like lava up here, but like it transitions like lightning somewhere, but it's kind of to tell where. It's a very interesting effect. This could also just all be magma just flying across like the atmosphere. Um, and the rocks like way darker than the lava, so they stand out. And of course, in the foreground, like all these rocks have like lava, like such bright like lava here. Like it's so bright, I can see the light all the way up here. Here, it's mostly the rock is the parts that we see of the rock are just like all mostly all dark, just so it helps us tell it's in the it helps us shows us in the foreground. So I think it's landing here, and it's possible that the implication could also be that this is scanning like charting this so that these landers can land somewhere. And of course, when a robot dies, if you get information, you can use the lander token to go look for a land. Is the idea. I forgot to talk about who did the art for that. I think I'm also doing this a bit out of order, but Francisco Badia. Eumedian Terra Botanist. One generic, one green. Creature, insect, druid. Landfall. Whatever land you control enters, you gain one life. To plant seeds of the others is to cultivate the self. Eumedian Aphorism. I don't know if the ideas that they're literally planting each other. I think they come out of pods mostly, so I don't think the idea is that it's literally planting another Eumedian. At best, maybe another seed pod, but I think it's the idea is that it's just planting a weird plant. So once again, Eumedian terraformation. I already went over it, so I'm not gonna get into it. Very interesting that this is actually the structure looks actually like some sort of building, like they're in some sort of greenhouse or something, or maybe just in a cave, a weird cave. I don't know, but there's clearly like structures up here and lights, and they're growing plants here. One of the more insectoid looking Eumedians. Once again, we have very interesting armor. Where, like the armor, like where the armor ends and like their exoskeleton begins feels like a little blurred in some areas. Like I assume like this is the armor, but it kind of feels like the armor feels like a bit exoskeleton-y. Like if you told me it was made of similar material for the most part, except maybe like a bit more metal here, I would believe you. But I do like that sort of blend. Landfall, they're terraforming stuff, so they can't. So whenever you play a land, I guess it represents the idea that they're terraforming it, making it better. So it heals you a bit, it helps you. Um, Everything you can tell the difference between the foreground and the background because the background's a little bit more. It's like a yellow tint to everything. And it's just by Loic. I can't tell it's a V or a Y. Kanavagia or Kanayagia. I cannot for life. I think it's Kanavagia. Um, and also druids usually just creature types have a connection to nature. Um, you social engineering. I should probably go over Drix Fate Maker. So the Drix are a very mysterious species that we know they discovered They discovered the weft travel first because they could do it naturally without need of a ship. The Pinnacle encountered them, and they said, "Hey, we'll teach you how to use weft technology, but you have to make some. But yet, we have to make some sort of deal with us." The exact terms of the deal are unknown, but it seems like the Pinnacle helps them store stuff and maybe just helps them with certain things. Like they seem to be after certain artifacts that can cause they can like harm or damage like parts of, like people very easily. Um, so here we have a Drix making like an incision and then coming through this portal. We have some very interesting Drix faces. Like clearly they have like we don't have a lot of Drixes in the set. I think we only have like 4 or 5 Drix cards in total. But Here we do see like a bit more variety in some of the Drix faces, but we don't get like a good look at them because obviously they're very far away. This person's the main focus. One thing I've talked about repeatedly is the idea of like height representing some sort of like power or influence. So this person's like literally above everyone else, directing them where to go, while these people are below this person. And when I say height, I don't mean like literally like you stand like 6 foot 5 inches or whatever. I mean like they place them on some sort of platform, or they're in a ditch or something to show like an unevenness somewhere in like power or authority or height. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. So the idea is that couldn't tell you exactly what this. I mean, once again, Magic is not subtle, so it has a bunch of creatures, and the idea is that it's trying to tell you that this creature, like this card, wants you to have other creatures to put +1/+1 counters on it, and it's more powerful the more other creatures you have, because the more creatures you have, the more +1/+1 counters you can put on them, and the more creatures you can have with trample. I don't know what that represents for this trick specifically. I just assume it's just helping people or enhancing them in some way, or inciting some sort of growth. Warp represents the Drix's like web travel ability. Once again, they have very interesting like fabric clothes, where it's like a weird like filigree tapestry thing, but not like metal filigree. So, but the port actually does a great job of framing them. Like the port is very bright and they're like darker colors, and they're reaching out, and then just kind of like a cloudy green background. And I don't know where this takes place. I assume it's probably not anywhere on Sothera because there's just so many Drix here. And Drix are not native to Sothera, and I don't know why there'd be like an army of Drix there unless there's something very important happening. I assume this is like the Drix home planet or something somewhere closer to that. Also, Drix Wizard. Use social engineering. 3 generic, 2 green. Enchantment. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. Warp 1. One generic, 1 green. A harmonious production for a better world. Kind of weird that creates robots and not like insect people, but hold on. So use social, I think, just means like living together. Because like bees are use social because they work together. Yeah, an animal species, especially an insect, showing an advanced level of social organization in which a single female or caste produces the offspring, and non-reproductive individuals cooperate in caring for the young. Oh, so it's kind of like a ant colony or hive. I thought social was just like just generally for like advanced. Like I thought they were like use social spiders, but I might be misunderstanding what use social means. Um, I do believe naked mole rats might be use social because I do think naked mole rats do have like a queen, and everything kind of revolves around like that, and that by definition. But anyway, it's kind of weird because these don't really look like robots. Maybe they could be. Although we do know that I'm not sure if I'd say the e-mains are strictly social as Google defines it. Once again, I think the Google definition is weird because that's not how I remember e-social being used, but maybe I'm just completely wrong. There's misconceptions all the time. So I don't know if it is e-social in the way that Google defined it as like, oh, it needs like a queen leader or whatever. It could be that this person's the leader and they're doing their own thing, because we know that if that was the definition we're going with, I don't think the e-medians would all be social. But it also could just be like, oh, they're very like complex and social, like they're kind of like a hive or a colony. In which case, it would apply to all the EU Midians. Landfall because the E-medians terraforms, they care about lands. Warp because ship, and this might be in the inside of a ship or a ship is coming through. So warp because of a ship. And then assembling. I assume these are probably robots. They don't really look like robots to me, but summon a landfall, terraform. You put a robot down to like go because the area becomes more prosperous. And here we have like fruits and stuff. And the background's really beautiful. It seems like painted, some sort of painted style. So we have like a lot of these warm colors within within here. Then outside we have like a lot cooler colors. It's like all kind of like red, orange, brown, pink. And the second you step outside, it's like kind of lighter green, yellow, blue, like blue and green mostly. They're a lot cooler colors, which is a very interesting juxtaposition. Especially since we know Evendo is like really like cold in most areas, so you could see this even as representing like the warmth and like and terraformation, and this like the more cold cold Evendo. Um, Once again, this is like a ship, I assume, which is kind of far away, so it's kind of blue. And once again, it doesn't really feel like there's a single main character in this because do see this face, but none of them are like we don't really get a good look at any of them per se. Like they all have like basically the same face. It keeps going. We can't see the face of whoever's leading them because this person's clearly different from them because these people are, like in lockstep with each other. The person's doing something different, but we can't see them. So like theoretically, where they would be the most important, we still can't see them. So who's leading them doesn't matter as much because it's an enchantment. Um, yeah. Famished World Side Leviathan. Oh yeah. Also, the edge just says Leviathans. It's kind of weird because I think they mentioned like the worm wall, so you think they would just use worms for like the creature type to represent big things in space. Um, but they say other beasts, and there are Leviathans on there are Leviathans on what's the blue planet? Sorry, I'm blanking. There are Leviathans on Earthros, like planet side. So yeah. I think it's the first time I've gotten a green Leviathan though, no? Because Leviathans are usually blue, because they usually live in the water. Um so first I think this is the first time I've gotten like a mono green line. Whenever I say like this is the first time I've gotten like a, for example, like a black angel or something, I mean like a mono black angel. Because if someone's always gonna reply like, oh actually we've gotten white, black, I mean it's like whenever I say something like along the lines of this is the first time I've gotten this, I usually mean in relation to color. Identity I'm usually specifying monocolor because basically every creature has basically touched multicolor at some point. And what makes what I'm pointing out is what can make certain things weird is not like, oh they have green. It's like if Leviathans are usually blue, they usually have blue no matter like the color combination. But the fact that it doesn't have blue at all is what's interesting to me. Um, which I mean it makes sense in green too because very big. Uh, Green loves its creatures. Famous World Sire, 5 generic, 3 green. Creature Leviathan, Ward 3 generic. Devour Land 3. As this creature enters, is this in the base set? I don't know. I'm not sure if I've ever seen this card, and I don't know if there's any other cards that care about Devour Land. As this creature enters, you may sacrifice any number of lands. It can enters with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. When this creature enters, look at the top X cards of your library, X is this creature's power. Put a number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. So I guess the idea is that it comes in, it eats lands, and then the remains can be used to the remains or like whatever asteroid or rubble leaves behind might also act as lands depending on how lucky you are. Okay, but seriously, I'm gonna check if we had. Also, the art is by Kev Walker. Yeah, this is this first set I think we've ever gotten Leviathans in green. Because I think Leviathans have basically just been always blue. Like obviously multicolored Leviathans, but I think only like we haven't gotten red Leviathans. We haven't gotten mono red Leviathans. Never mono black Leviathans, or mono white. So I never really realized this was like Sky Swallower and Simic Sky Swallower. Anyway, and of course the art is just like of epic proportions. You have this massive creature. It's kind of hard to see certain areas because like it's green is a green, but you can tell the artist did like a good job like helping you get what's important by like using black to like sort of create an outline and highlights of shadow. So like it might be hard to like make out certain things with this creature, but then you can see like oh it's clearly something alive because you see like clearly a very striking face done with the black shading. Um and also in space, obviously they're so big they're in space. Um I guess like in a certain way them like this like some of the way like where it kind of blends with the environment actually kind of makes a lot of sense because it's like so big and so massive. Like this is an asteroid, but like it's so big that almost like it's like a part of the environment. Like if you were a ship, you'd be like, holy shit, this thing is like surrounding us, or is like taking up like a huge chunk of space. And you can see this as like as a representation of it being like on the same scale as this asteroid, or it's so bad, so colossal and so big that it's like it almost feels like a cosmic object. Um, so Devour Land it eats planets and asteroids. and yeah, Rebel comes down, and those can be lands potentially. Um, have we gotten Baloths like particularly a lot? Frenzied Baloth. What planes do Baloths appear on usually? I guess Baloths usually appear in Zendikar. Kind of seems like it's a specific type of beast. Um, Frenzy Baloth, 2 green. Creature beast. This spell can't be countered. Trample haste. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Combat damage can't be countered. Not all species on a vendor welcome to Thong of the Ice. Um, so I mean, clearly this is like a bit of like a I don't want to say like a specific like a mammoth design, but it has like a really thick shaggy fur compared to some of the other Baloths we were just looking at. So definitely more adapted for the cold. It looks like. Um, I think flavor wise, the idea is that it's just like an unstoppable creature. It can't be countered. It has triple haste, so it enters the battlefield and just rams into you. I think it also prevents other spells from being countered, which I don't know. I feel like this is more mechanical. Or I guess maybe it represents like embracing the frenzy. I don't know. And combat damage can't be prevented, so it kind of represents like this unstoppable force. Like it's kind of immune, resistant to magic. It's hard to kill. Um, it you can't stop combat damage, but it's interesting. It's interesting that like I guess it applies to all combat damage. So if an opponent targets you, you can't really stop that either. But at the same time, I think just like an interesting take on like green philosophy a bit, like the idea of accepting, because green can sometimes enforce certain rules that are like, hey, you have to like do this with your creatures. And I think the idea is like green's like has this idea of like what's natural, like how things should be working. And it's usually like no weird like spells and shit. Like we're doing this as God intended. Me putting down your creatures and swinging, you putting down your creatures and swinging, and whoever has the better creature wins. No weird artificial spells, no weird artifacts. This is how we're doing it. So it's sort of double-edged blade where it's like you can also get screwed over by this, but it makes sense as something that Green would embrace, like the idea of like we shouldn't like interfere with the creatures fighting in a way. Like if a creature fights, they fight. We shouldn't be trying to like artificially influence that. Um, this is like mostly turquoise. I don't have a ton to say about this art. Mostly turquoise. Like it's frenzied. It's very strong. So it's knocking over ice and stuff and running through here. There might be some sort of structures here. That's ice though, but this looks like something. I don't know. I don't know if this is a robot or some sort of EU-median construct. I don't know. But yeah. Also, interesting. It has like these tusks, but then has like another set of tusks and very big teeth. Does he even eat meat or plants? Because like, what else are you gonna eat with those besides like? Anyway, but it is Magic the Gathering, so who knows? And the art's done by Diana Franco. Fungal Colossus. 6 generic, 1 green. Creature Fungus Beast. This creature costs X less to cast, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. When falling shards of Caveron shatter the icy shell Evendo. Okay, so I didn't really realize this. Also, this might imply that part of the reason. So, hold on. The Emedian seed pods were far from the only life form awakened from slumber. So we know that the Emedians they basically landed and they didn't immediately activate. Their pods didn't activate and start awakening them until the plant became habitable to a certain extent. So this could be, I guess the idea here is that the Emedians landed, they were in stasis, and then when Caveron started shattering, one of the shards like hit Evendo and started warming at certain parts of it, which gave rise to the proper habit environment for which the Emedians to awaken and then start terraforming the planet. Although it also kind of makes it ironic that the Cav destroying their own planet led to like this planet getting becoming more lively and having more life forms, and now the Cav want to take that planet. So it is by the Cav's destruction that this planet now has life. And I don't know if the Cav know about this. If they did, it would be kind of like an interesting bit of philosophy. Like the Cav, like, oh well, our planet's the only reason your planet's alive, like is terraforming right now, so we deserve like a piece of that pie, kind of thing. But interesting that it says like the sea pods were far from the only life form to awaken from slumber. So the sea pods are the Emedian stuff, And they said it's not just the E-Midians that are awakening; it's something else. And I do like how you see an E-Midian ship because we know they awaken, but then also something following it. So in the same way, like so, it's like the E-Midians woke up from the change in the environment, and then and in the same vein, this thing is sort of following their footsteps, not like one to one, literally, but it's following their footsteps in the sense that as they awaken, so do this other stuff. It also implies there might be other stuff. I mean, we can just know just that generally there's other stuff in the ice, in stasis or whatever. Um, so this also does imply like they're like if they terraform the planet, like not everything that's native to there would just die per se. It'd be like the Earth stuff like frozen in the ice that's waiting for it to thaw. Um, I guess like stuff coming out of like stasis and ice is also like a sci-fi trope of sorts. And once again, if you notice, like we have like a bunch of detailing here to the left and right, but as you get closer to the creature, it's like less detailed. Um, in the background, just because it helps draw attention to the creature. And also, this tree back here actually kind of acts kind of like a frame. Oh my god, whenever I talk too much, I get mucusy. Um, so like if you look here, it kind of draw your attention against like the brighter light. Like there's like this weird like frame. Like this creature's almost like censored where this tree like all the branches would converge. It's also glowing somehow, and it's apparently a fungus of some sort. 5/5. I think the idea is that differently controlled lands. So like as the lands thaw, like there's more land, different types of lands being revealed, and it gets more active because of that. Galactic Wayfarer. How long have I been streaming? Okay, so I've actually been streaming for like uh this is 107. I don't know why it says 2 hours here than 107 here. I might I'm just not feeling as well today. I don't know, my stomach feels kind of weird. I might just end it here for now and I'll finish this later. Because normally I'd be feeling it, but I'm just not feeling as much today. So I'm actually probably gonna stop here and we're gonna continue where we left off next time.